Hi, everybody. I'm Dennis Daly. I spent 20 years with United Press International, most of it with the old UPI radio network. And my favorite assignment was going on the road producing and hosting American Montage. It was an hour-long weekly program. Now here's an edited version of one of those shows. The Arts and Entertainment Network is this weekend celebrating the 10th anniversary of its very, very well-received biography series. It was 10 years ago that A&E started airing biography once each week. Well, about 3 years ago, it became a daily series, and it is a staple of arts and entertainment. So to celebrate the 10th anniversary of the A&E biography series, A&E commissioned the Peter Jones Production Company, and you've seen a lot of Peter Jones' work on the American Movie Classics channel, commissioned Peter Jones to put together a biography on Judy Garland. So we're going to the party where that biography was first premiered for the press. As I walked into the party that evening, I saw a woman sitting on a chair with a cane. I couldn't remember her name at first. As a matter of fact, I had to ask someone who she was. Marcella Rabwin. If the name doesn't mean anything, let me tell you, she was David O. Selznick's longtime assistant. And other than having that great tie to the movies, she married a gentleman who ended up to be the family doctor of the Gum family. Gum was Judy Garland's real last name, you know. I asked Marcella Rabwin first what it was like to be among old friends at a party where there were indeed so many familiar faces.
This is one of the great excitements of my life. I'm an old woman now. I'm pushing 90, and I know that there are at least 1,000 youngsters who know my name and write me. I have a correspondence which is like a fan club, but only not organized. These are all Gone with the Wind admirers, and I get such a kick out of these letters, and the cards, and the Valentines. It's a wonderful thrill. I had no idea this would happen.
What was it like after that? And if you look at the documentary on how Gone with the Wind was made, it was a labor of love, but a tremendous, hellacious amount of work to finally get it premiered.
It was a happy thing to have finished because it was made in chaos. The studio was in a turmoil. Everybody hated everybody else. And Victor Fleming, who's a very sweet, nice guy, was the source of much of it. We had a terrible time with that film.
Well, he ended up, as the press department said, I guess, having a nervous breakdown, right?
Did he have a nervous breakdown?
Or did the studio?
Well, the studio, of course, survived him. But making that picture was the most onerous thing I have ever done. And David Selznick he was absolutely a dog, working like a dog. It was a tremendous job, and he did most of the writing, you know.
Had most of it. I guess the only real script was in his head, which must have made editing a tough thing to do.
Every morning I've had a nervous breakdown.
They have been able to go back and get some wonderful clips of Judy's performances and to talk to a great number of people whom Judy Garland knew and worked with, including Marcella Rabwin, the woman we've been talking to. She is, as she mentioned, about 90 now, a special assistant at one time to David O. Selznick, the man who brought us Gone with the Wind. And also her husband was the family physician to Judy Garland's family. And at one point in the documentary, they bring out that there were already 2 young girls, the Gum sisters. The family was down on its luck and very poor, and Mrs. Gum was expecting a 3rd child, and it was Marcella's husband who counseled the father to not end the pregnancy, but go ahead and let the child be born, and that child turned out to be Judy Garland. We turn our attentions now to some of the other people attending the party. Jane Withers has always been a great hero of mine, heroine, if you will, from the motion pictures. She wasn't always the leading lady. She was a child star with Judy Garland. Had that kind of face where she always played the best friend, if you will. She's done numerous TV commercials. She works a lot in charity now. She was standing around the party when a great old friend of hers came in, Mickey Rooney. I had a chance to talk to Jane Withers about her career, about Judy Garland, and about her reunion with Mickey Rooney.
Oh, it was joyful.
Can you tell people who think of Hollywood only as the kind of sleaze that this was a community, that you went to PTA, that you went to Girl
That's your
Scouts?
boots. Well, I've always gone to PTA because I have 5 grown children now and 5 grandchildren. So PTA was very much a part of my life. But no, Hollywood, I was blessed with coming here in 1932 from Atlanta, Georgia. I was 5 years old and had gone as far as I could go as Dixie's Dainty Dewdrop in Atlanta. So it was time to move on to bigger and better things. So we came out here and, of course, did know a soul. And I did extra work for about a year. I did over 100 films. And then finally got my big break with Shirley Temple in Bright Eyes in 1934. And it was released in 1934. We made the film in 33. But during that time, I did a radio show. And Mickey was then Mickey McGuire of Mickey McGuire Comedies. And he was the guest star occasionally on that show. Judy Garland was one of the Gum sisters. And they were on the show occasionally. Sidney Miller, darling Sidney Miller, was the MC, and he later worked with Donald O'Connor in many films and on the road touring with Donald for a very long time. And there were a lot of very talented, wonderful young people on that show. And they have all grown up and made names for themselves, and it's been a big thrill. But our films were so different then. They had good morals and happy endings. And I'm a great believer in both of those things.
I ran across Ronald Neame, who looks like he should come from Central Casting. You look at him, you know he's from the United Kingdom. He came to America and became a director here and directed Judy Garland in one of her favorite movies. I asked Ronald Neame about just how complicated Judy Garland was, how she really seemed to be more than one person, a lot of personalities wrapped up into one.
Well, she was 3 or 4 people wrapped into one. She was almost utterly impossible, but completely and utterly wonderful. I loved her very, very, very much. And I hated her so badly on occasions. And the same in reverse. I directed her in her last film. And when she loved me, she used to call me Pussycat. And when she hated me, she'd say, "Get that Britisher off the set." She, of course, was a lovely actress as well as a great performer. And we had a wonderful time together. But you know, Judy had a hell of a life. I mean, from the age of about 9, she just was put into a limousine, taken to the studio, filmed all day long, shoved in a limousine, taken back home again, year after year. She never had a chance to grow up. She never had a chance to be, you know, an ordinary girl. And so she had her problems. But she cared desperately. And I am very, very glad I had the opportunity to work with her, believe you me. And I miss her.
At one time, he was the highest-rated movie star in the world, and then fell from grace, went through a series of marriages, and as we remembered when they honored him at the Oscar presentation many years ago, he had fallen so far that he couldn't find a job. Mickey Rooney. I went up to Mickey, who, believe it or not, is shorter than I am, and a little bit more round, and I asked Mickey about his association with Judy Garland and accidentally said the wrong thing. I told him I wasn't going to ask about the bad times, the dark times, and at that point he interrupted me.
There's nothing bad to say about Judy. Judy is one of the greatest traditions and women and talents that will ever live. I don't care whether it's Sarah Bernhardt or all of the greats that have come to the fore. There will be none to equal Judy Garland.
I think one of the sweetest things I ever heard was in an MGM documentary, you saying that she was always with you.
She is. There is never a day goes by, but what I believe it or not, I'll talk to her.
An amazing man, Mickey Rooney. And there you have it, another edited episode of one of the American Montage programs prepared for the UPI radio network back in the 1980s and 90s. I'm Dennis Daly. Thanks for listening. Thanks for going with me this week. And check YouTube for more American Montage programs.